Hi. Hello, my name is Joshua Chuba. I'm accompanied with my friend.
I'm the Alvetro.
And today we're with our dear friend here.
Chuck Potashnik.
So, how old are you today?
How old am I?
Yeah.
83.
Wow.
How long have you lived here in Holland?
Yeah, 53 years. I got to see many of the younger people who later I had in class grow up. They would invite us to some of the weddings and so forth. It was very nice. We had always had great neighbors and just fun people. We sometimes had what we call problems on the patio, which is at the end of the driveway really. And the neighbors all come and meet each other and eat donuts and things. It's very nice.
Well, to stay on topic, how much was your first house?
How much was our first house? We differ a little bit by 1,000. It's either 43.5 or 44.5.
Wow.
And this is our first house.
Wow.
We used to live in an apartment. We were first married for roughly 5.5 years. And including all the utilities, it was $95 a month, right, Jeannie? Yeah, $95 a month. So that's what our electric bill is today.
So, you're a teacher, correct? You were a teacher.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I've always enjoyed it. Not only the classroom, because I enjoyed reading. I taught history, psych, economics, world history, American history, government, and there's just a wealth of people out there to help you. For example, if I taught econ, I would invite people from some of the investment companies to come in and talk to the students, because I wanted the students to realize if they did not buy tattoos, they could at least make a lot of money and live comfortably when they were older. But it was a decision they had to make, and the responsibility was on them. All of the students were fun to be around. As I said, we had people from Liberty come in. They were members of the Holocaust surviving groups. I would bring in athletes who were better known than others. And the most famous one was Mike Tyson, of course, as the heavyweight champ. But it was just remarkably good for me. I enjoyed coaching. I coached football, basketball, track, and baseball. And I was in charge of approximately 39 proms. And that was great fun because it was the end of the year and everybody was excited about graduating and who was going with who and things of that sort. And in those days, even if you were a sophomore and had a date, you could go to the prom. Some of the girls would date or had special interest in somebody who was maybe in the military, and we would invite them along too. And but it was, interesting. We used to make floats, large floats for homecoming games and things. I enjoyed coaching with some of the nicer people. Mr. Tomney, I don't know if you knew Jack Tomney or not.
Yeah.
Great guy, a good athlete in his own right. You probably didn't know Jim Restuccio, who was the head track coach at that time. He was an accomplished artist even, and he was just fun to be around. But Howland had some outstanding teachers, and they were always willing to help, particularly when I was just starting there and I didn't really know anybody. And they were very kind to me and helpful with materials and so on. My wife was a school nurse for a number of years, and she would always have interesting stories to tell about some of the parents' behavior. Like one gentleman who actually mooned the school. He was leaving. So, those are just a few of the things. It was interesting. When I was coaching baseball, we had a number of outstanding players. One of them signed with the Phillies, and he played center field for the University of Michigan. Another one was the MAC Pitcher of the Year as a junior and signed with the Angels. So we were fortunate to have a lot of talent around. And I coached with my younger brother, Gary. Do you know Gary Lindak? Yeah, he retired about 3 or 4 years ago now. And it was great fun because there was like 20 years difference in age between us. And so I got to know him and he got to know me better, coaching together. And we were, no mistake about it, we were there to win. And we won more games than anybody else in the league and so forth. But we had talent. You have to have talented people and young people who wanted to play. In many of the schools now, even in Warren, where I grew up, there's only 2 Little League teams remaining. When I started playing, it was 1952, and there would be a crowd of anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 people at the games. Today, the fields are empty. Kind of a sad, it's like a ghost, you know. But, you know, things change. Soccer has become more important, volleyball, other sports, and it's all good, I think. For the girls also, they were pretty well limited to just a few sports. So what we would do to raise money for the prom, we would have what we call the powder puff football game, where the girls would play and the guys from the varsity team would be their coaches, and it was just fun. And then one other one was the guys who were not on the football team would play the faculty and kind of get even with us a little bit. But it was, you know, it was just enjoyable. And after some of the football games, it was a little different also in the sense that when we would play Newton Falls and so on, they would actually have dinner after the games for the players. And that doesn't happen too often anymore. So, biggest cheerleader was always my wife. We were actually born a few days apart in the same hospital. And I didn't get to meet her until high school. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. She agrees. But we've been very blessed in a lot of ways. We have 3 children. One boy who's the oldest, he lives in Brookfield. A daughter, Sue, who was in the Marines for almost 8 years, was in Iraq, even climbed the 4th highest mountain in the world. Our other daughter lives in the Cincinnati area, a place called Loveland. It's just outside the main park there. And she has 2 grandkids. And anyway, they're excellent musicians and so forth. So, but teaching was fun. It really was. And I used to come home. I would always, not always, but most of the time I'd give essay tests. And when I came home, I would make a pot of coffee. I'd start grading the papers to get them back the next day. I always made that priority. Instead of waiting a week, 2 weeks, it was ridiculous to me. And I was not fond of true-false tests or multiple choice. But I just want to know your thinking, your analysis of situations, and so forth.
What inspired you to be a teacher? Was it a teacher while you were in school, or was it some other person in your life?
Primarily other teachers. I had excellent teachers. I was at Warren Harding, and they were, you know, you hear stories about teachers. It's sort of like lawyers and so forth. Some great ones, some not so good, but the good ones were really inspirational. And I enjoyed it. I always talk about you stand on the shoulders of those people because they're always willing to help, and they're just dedicated, really. I would always want the community to realize how important the school was, socially, academically, athletically, and in many ways. It's such a great little microcosm the universe to me.
So now that you're retired, do you have like any hobbies you do?
Hobbies? Well, for the past 17 years, I was president of Trumbull County Sports Hall of Fame. I worked with that. I worked with helping to create the Howland Sports Hall of Fame. I was with that for about 8 years. The Academic Achievement Hall of Fame. And, all of those things that dealt with the students and the players, the community itself. My wife was in charge of Warren Civic Music Entertainment for 15 years. So we would go to a lot of shows and concerts and so forth. We stayed in touch with some of them. Some of them were out of Las Vegas. Some were famous, some were not so famous, but all super talented. There's so many good people out there that aren't recognized, for whatever reason, unfortunately.
In your life, I'm sure you've had a lot of accomplishments, whether it's in the community or just for yourself, but what do you consider your greatest accomplishment?
Marrying my wife, having family. Yeah. It's just, I'm so blessed in that sense, and it's always meant everything to me. My wife's parents were the kindest people you'd ever want to meet, and they were very grateful that they had this opportunity in America. They understood the immigration thing. My mother-in-law was an outstanding cook, baker, and so forth. I don't know if you're familiar with Alverini's restaurant when it was there. But anyway, I was on Youngstown Road, 422 there. But one of the owners, the original owner, Richard Alverini, would always come across the street when he saw my father-in-law bringing various kinds of foods that my mother-in-law made. And he would always just say, geez, I wish I could cook like this. And so we're very fortunate. My father-in-law was the kindest man, and my mother-in-law was the same way. I was very fortunate. You always hear about in-laws and outlaws. That was never true. They were just beautiful people.
So you've had a very great life, and I'm very happy to hear about it. Are there any regrets in your lifestyle?
The only regrets, I think, is sometime you could have done more of whatever. Jeannie and I worked for a group called Contact Trumbull. It was a hotline, telephone hotline, and we would work sometimes the evening shifts trying to help people who were having whatever kinds of issues it was at the time. But you could always, you come up short a little bit. If I had it to do again, maybe I would try and do a few more things for other people. But it's difficult, time-wise, when you're raising a family and so forth, and you're coaching and so on. And those are inspirational days when you're younger. You're more idealistic and things like that. So that would be my only regret. Otherwise, I really don't have any.
For other people who may have regrets in their life or going through hardships, do you have any advice for them based off of experience you've had?
Well, I know one thing only really that would help them. They have got to be more physically active. If you're physically active, you start to see things differently. You have more energy, more insight, and you realize you're not the only person that has problems. Because it's so easy to just feel sorry for yourself. And that gets you nowhere. It's only makes you more depressed. We have such a high suicide rate in this country and all over the world, really. People drink too heavily. The drug scene, very disgusting and terrible. They always are after the dealers, but if there was no demand, it wouldn't be there. See, but I think those are some of the things, if you realize how fortunate you are to be in this country, if you've gone to some of the foreign countries, you realize that even the poorest people in this country have televisions, they have air conditioning, they may have a beat up car, but they've got a car. There are many things to be grateful for. And if you have a great family, that's everything, really.
Yeah, that's very great advice. So, as you're like growing up, like who was your best friend?
My brothers, I had basically two brothers, and then my youngest brother came along 20 years later. But we were always on the same sports teams and so forth, and that was a real kind of piece of cement or glue that helped us a lot. And then, you would meet other people who were quite nice to you and got to be friends with them also in the neighborhood and so forth. You grew up with them. Probably one of the kindest people I know was in the NFL Hall of Fame, Paul Warfield. Paul would always come to our class reunions and let my wife wear his Hall of Fame ring from their undefeated season in Miami. Just a great guy. One time I was in charge of a dormitory up at Kent called Johnson Hall. And most of the guys that played sports lived there. And we'd have a big banquet at the end of the year. And so I sent a short note to Paul. He had just signed with the Browns for $60,000, which was a great deal of money in those days. If he would come in the middle of the week, hand out a few trophies and things to some of the guys. And he did. He drove up from Columbus, stayed, had dinner with us, and then returned home. So you learn about people who are like that. One of my coaches was a guy by the name of George Chuba, played for the Dodgers. And he had a World Series home run. He's the guy that was shaking Jackie Robinson's hand as he crossed home plate. And George was one of the kindest people ever. He was an inspiration, really, in so many ways. And so were other athletes and coaches that I met along the way. Nice, just beyond words, really. Great role models. If you could learn something from them, you would really benefit as a person.
In your life, you have seen obviously a lot of advancements in technology. But what's your opinion on the path that it's going and where we might end up in the next few years?
I wish I knew where we're going to end up. There seems to be a great deal of controversy about AI, all of the electronic media. I do not own a cell phone. My wife has a smartphone that helps us when we travel, but I'm not so sure it's an advancement. When I see just people looking at the cell phone, what are you doing? Nothing much. What are you doing? Not much. That's the end of the conversation. I don't really see the need for it unless there's a special situation for a student. But many good things can come out of all of it. I'm hoping they'll use the AI information for medical advancements, helping people who have various kinds of physical problems and mental problems. Unfortunately, sometimes it becomes a tool for destruction with the military and other groups. And that's a sad reality too.
So, you've had like a very outgoing lifestyle. Or is there anything like not many people know about you that you would like the world to know?
Oh, I probably don't want them to know, but well, I was all Ohio athlete at Harding. Got a Cleveland Indians scholarship to play baseball at Kent. was a batting champion in Youngstown Class B baseball. That's 18, 19-year-olds. Never lost a game for 4 years as a pitcher. I hurt my shoulder a couple times, and that was the end of that. What else? Parachuted out of an airplane, tandem. It was my wife's idea that we would do this, and I thought she had finally lost her mind. But you know, from 11,500 feet up, it's an interesting process. You know, it takes a leap of faith because you just step on this little metal thing and jump off of it so the propeller doesn't hit you and so on. But you know, we were at the Robert Kennedy funeral in Washington at Arlington. Not the funeral itself, but the procession as it went up the hill. College was interesting for me. I was never a good student, really going in. I just turned 17. I was 16 as a senior, so was my wife. And I was really not well prepared for college, but you know, you learn. I had good roommates who studied, and finally I learned, though, you know, you had to put in some time. So, but other things, no, you know, not really. Just.
You were an A+ teacher, Post?
Well, yeah, named A+ teacher twice. That was always very complimentary, and I've always thought of that as something more important to me than winning the games that we won and things like that. One other, tell you, when I was coaching football, it was the late 60s. I don't remember the exact year. We were playing at Harding, Western Reserve, and they were ranked #1 in the state. They had some big kids there, some, you know, big running back, about 220. You know, they'd hand him the ball and he would just make his way through the line. But they were this far from the goal line and time was running out. They handed the ball to him twice and our guys stuffed him. And we beat the #1 team in the state of Ohio that night. It was just great. That was a great highlight. Our baseball team beat a pitcher whose name escapes me at the moment. He was #1 signer for the Detroit Tigers. And we beat them in 5 innings and pounded him. Our kids really did the job on that one. So, but again, you have to have good people. You have good people in the classroom. Most of the students realized I really try to make it known through my behavior that I respected them. And I wanted them to be knowledgeable in whatever class it was. I'd run some small experiments occasionally. Like I'd do a hypnosis experiment with them. Well, I say that I'm a member of the National Hypnosis Hall of Fame and International Hypnosis Hall of Fame. And you know, over the years, I just try to help students who were struggling a little bit academically, primarily. I would help them a little bit with sports. But the important thing was that they were able to do better and get further along in a career or something of that sort. Pass an exam to get into medical school or real estate or whatever it may have been. But it's a lot of fun. Spoke in New York City in I think it was 99, at the convention there and so forth. But you know, nowadays, my big interest is taking care of the garden. But you know, with my wife's help, we go to, as I said, a large number of concerts. Because we were in Branson one year, and she was there to get some acts for Warren Civic Music. There would be 6 of them for the season. And we saw 14 shows in 6 days. And some of the people were more famous than others. And they were just, you learn from them. They were just gracious. There was, in 15 years, 90 shows, there was not one diva in the whole group. They were appreciative of everything that Jeannie would do for them and the other members of the club there. And so, you learn from that. And nobody is too big to be mean-spirited to anybody, really. And if you have great parents, tell them thank you and appreciate them.
What message do you want to pass on to the to the new generation, the young people in the world?
That's a good question. It's important that I think that people don't necessarily like to use this word, but love one another, get along. Differences are not that important. People are beady, bumpy, lumpy, stumpy. And, some are darker, some are whiter, some are more athletic, some are more whatever. And none of that really matters. You just treat people with respect. And that was always an issue with George Chuba. He would always make sure that you understood that you treated people with dignity. You have a good situation, and we have a tendency to kind of not realize it, I guess. So that would be my message. If somebody's different, fine. Einstein was different. Great athletes are different. Painters are different. Leonardo da Vinci was different. So you just have to appreciate that. Even the difference in yourself from maybe a different family member. If you have a brother or sister, to be aware of it, treat them well instead of picking on them and making fun of them and things like that.